My name is Nathan Cole, and until the night everything unraveled, I thought my life was solid. Not spectacular, not glamorous, not dramatic. Solid. I had a wife, Rebecca, 2 kids, Evan and Chloe, a home in the quiet suburbs of Aurora, Illinois, and a marketing firm that I had built from scratch into something respectable. Not Fortune 500, but comfortable, stable, predictable. We had been married 16 years. 16 years of rituals, routines, inside jokes, anniversaries we sometimes celebrated and sometimes forgot. Vacations we planned for months, and birthdays we threw together. 16 years of shared responsibilities, shared memories, and shared dreams we thought we still wanted. And all of it shattered on a Tuesday night. It was 9:47 p.m. when the doorbell rang. The house was dark, except for the soft glow from the living room lamp. My lamp, the one I always left on when Rebecca was supposed to be out of town. She was, at least according to her, in Detroit for a conference. She left that morning in a great mood, telling me not to forget to sign Chloe's math permission slip, and reminding me that Evan needed to be at soccer practice by 4. Normal things. Comfortable things. So when the doorbell rang, I expected a neighbor, maybe a package delivery mishap. Instead, when I opened the door, 2 uniformed police officers were standing on my porch. The older one, tall and serious, asked, "Mr. Cole?" "Yes," I said, feeling the first sting of unease. "Is everything okay?" He exchanged a look with the younger officer before he spoke again. "Sir, your wife, Rebecca Cole, was brought into Mercy North Hospital less than an hour ago." The world dropped out from under me. What happened? My voice cracked. Fear, confusion, disbelief blending into one. "There was an altercation," the officer said carefully. "A physical confrontation in a hotel room." "In Detroit?" I asked, clinging to the belief that everything was still aligned with the story I'd been told. The officer hesitated. "No, sir. In Chicago." I stared at him. "Chicago? She's in Detroit. She called me from the airport." "She never boarded a flight to Detroit," he said quietly. "Her name doesn't appear on any manifests." My breath hitched. Something cold and heavy coiled in my stomach. Is she okay?" I finally forced out. "She's stable," the younger officer replied. "But she's injured. The hospital will give you the specifics." I stood frozen, unable to process words that felt like they belonged to someone else's life. The officer gently touched my shoulder. "Sir, you should go to the hospital." And just like that, my entire reality, 16 years of marriage, trust, family, collapsed into a single, horrifying question. Why was my wife in a hotel in Chicago with someone who hurt her? The drive. I barely remember locking the door. I barely remember grabbing my keys, my jacket, or whispering to myself, "It's okay. You'll be okay," even though I knew I wouldn't. By the time I reached my car, the officers were already walking back to theirs. One of them approached me again. Officer Williams, according to his badge. "If you want," he said, "I can follow you to the hospital, just in case you're shaken." I wanted to say, "No, I'm fine," but I wasn't, and he knew it. So he followed me. The roads blurred past as my thoughts spiraled into chaos. Why Chicago? Why a hotel? Who was she with? And why didn't she call me? Every scenario that flashed through my mind was worse than the last. Officer Williams spoke once during the drive, through the open windows at a red light. "She was found at the Lakefront Hotel," he said. "Staff reported shouting from the room." From her? And who else? He looked at me with sympathy. "A man. His ID says Jonathan Hale." The name hit me like a blow to the chest. Jonathan Hale. A man who worked at her company. A man I had met once at a holiday party. A man who shook my hand and thanked me for lending Rebecca to the firm because she was its brightest star. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. The rest of the drive was silent. The hospital Mercy North was too bright, too cold, too sterile. The overhead lights hummed like angry insects. Officer Williams guided me to the reception desk, where a nurse typed Rebecca's name into the system. "She's in room 412, she said. "But before you go in, the attending physician wants to speak with you." My chest tightened. "How bad is it?" "Stable," she repeated. "But you should hear the details from Dr. Reeves." The doctor appeared minutes later, middle-aged, calm, authoritative. "Nathan?" he asked gently. "Yes." He sighed, folding his hands. "Your wife sustained multiple injuries, several contusions, a fractured wrist, and a mild concussion. She was disoriented when she arrived, but she's been medicated and is resting." A fractured wrist. Bruises. A concussion. Images I didn't want flooded my mind. "Who?" I swallowed. "Who did this to her?" The doctor exchanged a glance with Officer Williams. "Detectives are already investigating, but from initial reports, there was a violent conflict." I tried to steady my breathing. "Can I see her?" He nodded. "Prepare yourself. She's bruised and sedated but conscious." The room. When I stepped into the dim hospital room, the air shifted. The beeping machines, the antiseptic smell, the cold metal rails of the bed, all of it felt unreal. Rebecca lay there, her face swollen, one eye dark purple, her wrist wrapped in thick white plaster. Her hair was tangled, her lips cracked. She looked like a stranger wearing my wife's skin. Her eyes fluttered open when she heard me. "Nathan," she whispered, voice trembling. I stepped closer, but emotion choked every word I could have spoken. I'm so sorry," she whispered again, tears sliding down her bruised cheeks. "I never wanted you to find out like this." The room tilted. "Find out like this. Not, this isn't what it looks like. Not Nathan, please listen. Not denial, not confusion, not even panic. Just that one sentence. A confession without saying the word." My lungs deflated. My heart cracked. 16 years dismantled themselves in a single breath. I stared at her, the woman I had loved more than anyone else on this planet, and felt nothing but a cold, hollow ache. She reached for my hand with her uninjured arm. I stepped back. Her fingers froze midair. "Nathan, don't do this. Please, please don't look at me like that." But I didn't know how else to look at her. Not anymore. Nathan's decision? Standing at the foot of her hospital bed, watching the woman I built my life with tremble in fear, not of her injuries, but of what she had done, I felt something unexpected. Calm. Freezing. Crystalline calm. "I'm not going to scream," I said quietly. "I'm not going to yell or accuse you. I'm not here for that." She nodded quickly, desperate, hopeful. "I'm here," I continued, "because our kids deserve for at least one of their parents to hold it together." Her face crumbled. "Nathan, please." "But after tonight," I said, my voice steady, "I'm done lying to myself." She broke into quiet, broken sobs. I turned and left. And for the first time in 16 years, I didn't look back. Morning. I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen until dawn, replaying every conversation, every late-night work trip, every excuse, every moment I hadn't questioned. By morning, I felt carved out, hollow. When I returned to the hospital, Rebecca looked worse. Exhausted, pale, her face a map of guilt. "Talk to me, Nathan," she pleaded. Fine, I said. Then tell me the truth. Her eyes darted away. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said, sharply. Mistake is forgetting an anniversary. Mistake is buying the wrong size for a birthday gift. What you did wasn't a mistake. She swallowed hard. It wasn't an affair. It wasn't like that. Rebecca, I said coldly, you were found in a hotel room with a man you apparently meet every Tuesday and Thursday. She froze, her breath catching. So that part was true. She tried again. I wasn't cheating. I was confused. I needed someone to talk to. I held up a hand. I'm done listening to lies. She broke again, and I walked out again. The kids. Telling the children was the hardest thing I've ever done. Evan stared at me in stunned silence. Chloe cried, her small hands trembling as she clutched my arm. I kept my voice steady, gentle, honest. Your mom is in the hospital, but she'll be okay. Physically. But what happened? Evan asked, his jaw tightening. She was with someone she shouldn't have been with, I said softly. Someone who hurt her. Chloe sobbed harder. She lied to you, didn't she? Yes, I said. And that simple word broke something inside all of us. Evan clenched his fists. I hate her. No, I said immediately. Don't say that. Hate is easy. But living with truth, that's hard. He looked away, breathing sharp and angry. Chloe whispered, Will things go back to normal? I closed my eyes. No, I said quietly. But we'll find a new normal. Together. Nathan's choice. As they cried in my arms, as I held them tightly and felt the weight of our fractured family settle onto my shoulders, one thing became clear. I would not break. Not for Rebecca. Not for her choices. Not for her lies. The only thing that broke that night was her future with me. I thought nothing could hurt more than discovering her cheating. But the hospital proved me wrong. When I walked through that white hallway, heavy with the smell of disinfectant and other people's tragedies, the knot in my chest turned into something darker. And it wasn't because I felt sorry for her. No. I pitied myself. The naive fool I had been just days before. Karina was lying in the hospital bed, hooked up to an IV. Pale, scared, fragile. I had never seen her like that. Even on her worst days, she was always the ice queen. Chin high, eyes sharp, confidence so strong it felt like she owned the room. But now, her world had shattered, and she was suffocating under the weight of her own choices. She opened her eyes when she heard me step inside, and the moment she realized it was me, she broke. Her lips trembled. Tears welled up instantly. She wasn't crying out of pain. Not the physical one, at least. She was crying because she knew I knew. Daniel, please. Her voice cracked, thin and shaking. I didn't want this. I didn't want any of this. I stood there silently, hands in my pockets, staring at her without moving closer. Because if I took even one step toward that bed, I knew I would explode. You didn't want this? I repeated, my voice dangerously calm. Karina, you climbed into someone else's bed. That wasn't an accident. That was a choice. She squeezed her eyes shut, tears sliding down her temples. It was a mistake, she whispered. It was many mistakes, I corrected. A nurse walked in, glanced between us, sensed the tension instantly, and quietly left the room again. Karina reached her hand out toward me, fingers trembling. Please, don't leave. I need you. I didn't take her hand. Because in that moment, watching her lying there, weak, afraid, stripped of all the arrogance she once wielded like a weapon, I realized something. She didn't miss me. She missed the stability I gave her. She missed the version of her life where she was safe, adored, forgiven, before she even sinned. She didn't want me. She wanted the shield I had been, and I was done being a shield. I finally spoke, my voice low and steady. You don't get to need me now, Karina. Not after everything you threw away. Her breath hitched, half sob, half gasp. The heart monitor beside her beeped faster. But it didn't move me. I wasn't there as her husband anymore. I was there to watch the final pieces of her lies crumble. And they did. Right in front of me. The news spread faster than I expected. By the next morning, the hospital room felt less like a place of recovery and more like a stage. Family, friends, her co-workers, all parading in with flowers, sympathy, and unsolicited opinions about what I should do. Daniel, she's been through so much. Accidents change people. You can't leave her in a moment like this. She needs you now, more than ever. Funny how nobody said that when I needed someone. Funny how pain only matters when it's visible, wrapped in gauze, stitched up, lying in a hospital bed. Invisible wounds, emotional betrayal, those didn't count. Her mother was the worst. A small woman with a big voice, she cornered me near the nurse's station, gripping my arm with surprising strength for someone her age. Daniel, listen to me, she demanded. Karina made a mistake, but she loves you. She needs you. You can't punish her for slipping once. I looked her dead in the eyes. Once? I repeated. She froze, because she realized she had said something she shouldn't have. Her eyes flicked away. Her face went pale, but it was too late. I saw it. She knew. She had known. Mrs. Linton, I said quietly, how many times? She swallowed hard, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know. Not many. But enough. I finished for her. Enough times for Karina to grow careless. Enough for her to create routines she shouldn't have. Enough for her own mother to be aware of her behavior. I walked past her as she stammered excuses that suddenly made everything clear. Back in the room, I found Karina alone, looking even smaller than yesterday. When she saw me, she sat upright, wincing at the pain. Daniel, please sit, she whispered. I didn't. Instead, I closed the door behind me, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I was ready to stop holding back. Your mother knows, I said. Her face drained of color instantly. I talked to her. She slipped. She told me this wasn't the first time. Karina's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her eyes filled with panic, a trapped animal kind of panic. Daniel, no, please. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Look me in the eyes, I said. Tell me the truth. How long? She shook her head desperately. It wasn't, Daniel, please, I didn't mean, how long? Her entire body trembled. A few months, she finally whispered, collapsing into tears. But I stopped. I swear I stopped. I let out a breath that wasn't relief, just confirmation. Months, not days, not one impulsive mistake, a routine, a secret life, a pattern, the kind of betrayal that can only exist when someone has long stopped caring about you. Karina reached for me again, sobbing, voice breaking with hysteria. I was stupid. I was lonely. I didn't think, Daniel, please don't leave me. Please, I can change. I'll do anything. I stepped back, because all I saw was the woman who had lied to me for months, then cried only when the consequences finally caught up to her. You don't understand, I said quietly. I'm not here to fix this. I'm here to end it. Her sobbing stopped. Just like that. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught. She stared at me like she finally understood. This wasn't a fight. This was a funeral, and she was the one burying our marriage with every lie she had told. I walked toward the door. Behind me, she whispered one final plea, so weak it barely reached my ears. "Daniel, don't go." But I already had, in every way that mattered. When I left her hospital room that day, something inside me finally went quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet. Like the moment after a storm destroys everything in its path and all that's left is the sound of broken wood settling on the ground. For the first time in months, I wasn't confused. I wasn't doubting myself. I wasn't desperately trying to understand what I had done wrong. Nothing. I had done nothing wrong. And once that truth took root in me, it became impossible to unhear. Her family kept calling for days. Her friends, even her co-workers, people I barely knew, felt entitled to give me advice. "Daniel, marriages go through hardships. People make mistakes. Don't throw everything away because of one moment of weakness. She's traumatized. She needs emotional support." I ignored every call because they weren't there when she sneaked out. They didn't see the messages she tried deleting. They didn't hear the trembling in her voice when she admitted it was never just one moment. Hardships don't drive people to other beds. Weakness doesn't last months. And trauma doesn't erase betrayal. I finally returned to the hospital one last time, not for her, but for myself. She looked better physically, still pale, still fragile, but stronger than before. Emotionally, though, she was shattered, a ghost of the woman who once carried herself like nothing could touch her. When she saw me standing in the doorway, her eyes filled with hope, the kind that made my chest tighten, because I knew exactly what I was there to do. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You came back." I nodded slowly, not to stay, but to end this with clarity neither of us could run from. I stepped into the room and closed the door behind me. "This is my last visit," I said. Her hope cracked instantly. "But we can fix this. We can go to therapy. We can talk. I'll cut everyone off. Karina," I interrupted gently. "There's nothing left to fix." She froze, breath held, eyes wide. I continued. "You didn't break our marriage in one moment. You chipped at it, piece by piece, until there was nothing holding it together. The accident didn't change anything. It only revealed who you really were." She shook her head violently, tears spilling again. "You're the love of my life," she whispered. "Please, don't give up on us. I can change. I swear I can change." I sat in the chair beside her bed, not close enough to touch her, but close enough to be heard clearly. "This isn't about changing," I said. "It's about choices. And you made yours long before I knew anything." Silence filled the room. A silence so heavy it felt like a third person standing there, watching us. She tried one last time. At least say you'll think about it." "No," I said, "I won't." Her breath caught again, sharp, broken. I stood up. "Once you're discharged, the divorce papers will be ready. You won't have to worry about seeing me again." She stared at me with a kind of devastation that would have crushed me months ago. Back when I still believed she was everything to me. Now, I felt free, truly free. Because I realized something as I reached for the door. I wasn't walking away from a marriage. I was walking away from a lie. And she knew it too. Her voice was barely audible, a trembling confession meant only for me. "I never thought you'd actually leave." I turned my head slightly, just enough to meet her eyes. "That," I said, "was your second mistake." And with that, I walked out. Not fast. Not angry, just certain. Certain that leaving was the first decision in a long time that wasn't made out of fear, guilt, or love twisted the wrong way. Certain that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to stop saving someone who never cared if they drowned you first. The door clicked behind me, and in that moment, a moment without dramatic music, without applause, without witnesses, I got my life back. The life she thought I'd never choose over her. But I did, and I didn't look back.